Welcome to episode 10 of Book Nerd Paradise, where we get to know an author as they tell us one of their favorite quotes, read from their work, pose a trivia question, and give away a book or two. Hello, I'm LRW Lee, author of the Andy Smithson Epic Fantasy Adventure Series. As always, Book One, the ebook, is available free on Amazon, so if you haven't done so already, please avail yourself of that. Today, we welcome YA sci-fi author Rysa Walker as our guest. Rysa is the author of the best-selling Chronos Files series. Timebound, the first book in the series, was the young adult and grand prize winner in the 2013 Amazon Breakthrough Novel Awards, a very prestigious award, I might add. Rysa grew up on a cattle ranch in the South where she read every chance she got. On the rare occasion that she gained control of the television, she watched Star Trek and imagined living in the future, on distant planets, or at least in a town big enough to have a stoplight. She currently lives in North Carolina, where she's hard at work on the series finale. She tells fans, if you see her on social media, tell her to get back to the writing cave. So I think that's what we're probably going to have to do, but after this episode. Hello, Rysa.
Hi, how are you?
Rysa, what are you going to give to our listeners?
Okay, I've got copies of my 2 books, signed copies that I'll send out, and also a download certificate for a Kindle copy of the novella that comes in between the 2 of these, and probably one of the Kindle World stories that are based on the Chronos Files as well. So I'll include one of those, and the lucky winner can pick which one they want.
Ooh, that sounds awesome. To enter to win, all you need to do is leave a short comment about the episode over on YouTube. So liking the episode's not going to enter you, but just leave a short comment and you'll be good to go. Rysa, you have selected a favorite quote. What is it, and tell us why it's a favorite?
Well, I'm up here in my writing cave, which also doubles as the yoga room, and the Dalai Lama has always been a favorite of mine, so I decided to use one of his quotes, which is, be kind whenever possible. It is always possible. Because I don't like mean people. One of the main themes of this series, the villains, they're very similar to the Ayn Rand philosophy of I have mine and now everybody else just go away. And that's one of the reasons that I wrote this, is because I don't really like that theme that we see a lot in American politics and American culture, which is every person for themselves. I think you need to have a little more of a concern for the people around you.
So you'll be reading from Time's Edge.
Yes.
Would you briefly set us up and then share your story with us?
The story deals with 16, almost 17-year-old Kate, whose biggest problem is pretty much keeping her best friend from matchmaking attempts, until her grandmother shows up with an odd medallion that anybody can see it, but only certain people see the color from it. And it's a genetic quirk that Kate has inherited from all 4 of her grandparents were historians from Chronos, which is an organization in the 2300s that sends people back to observe history as it's being made rather than just reading about it. They're only supposed to observe, however, but one of her grandparents, he kind of likes power, and he decides that it might be a good idea to go back in time and set up a religion. And that would be a good way to get money. That would be a good way to get followers, and set himself up so that he could change history to avoid what he sees as being the pitfalls along the way. Kate discovers that she's the only person who can stop him, because when he sabotages Chronos, thinking that he'll be able to jump all around, he basically strands 24 historians out in the field, and it's only those that have inherited the gene that are able to still use the medallion. She ends up battling against an aunt to fix the little quirks in history that he has changed. In the second book, She is faced with having to get the remaining medallions that are out in the field before her grandfather and her Aunt Prudence can nab them. In the scene that I'm going to be reading from today, this is the first time that she will encounter her grandfather directly. And this is a trip he made in the past before he sabotaged Chronos, where he's doing a test run on what he has planned for the people who don't go along with his religion in the future. Okay, this is from the second book in the series, Time's Edge. This is a trilogy. The third one will be coming out, Time's Divide, will be coming out in October. God's Hollow, Georgia, September 15th, 1911, 2:42 p.m. We look like aliens, covered from head to toe in the biohazard suits. Even though the masks are supposed to block most odors, the place reeks of vomit and human waste. Pipe wrench in hand, Kiernan walks past the bench where Sister Elba rests and climbs over the wooden divider that separates the choir from the platform holding the pulpit and the harmonica. He presses his back against the wall, partially shielded by the red curtain hanging from above. I take up position on the other side of the pulpit. The curtain won't hide me since the door where Saul will enter is directly opposite, so I crouch down behind the choir bench and pull the Colt out of my pocket. This was one debate that Kiernan won, and although it makes me nervous to carry it around, he's right. I can't actually kill Saul, but a few shots could provide a useful distraction if a whack across the head doesn't slow him down. I take some deep breaths as we wait, trying to calm down. Then a scream cuts through the silence. As the sound moves closer, I make out a few words. She's screaming about the dog. Bull, that's Bull, let go! There's a scuffle outside the door, and Saul, whose voice I'd imagined as deeper, says, "Oh, no, you don't. Come on, Martha." The door swings inward, and their heads, which are all I can see from this position, are silhouetted against the bright sky. He kicks the door, and it closes behind them. The smell must hit Martha first because she coughs and turns her head away. When her eyes adjust to the dimly lit church, her mouth falls open, and her eyes glaze over. There's no sound for several seconds as she brings her hands to her face and begins to scream. The platform shakes as he drags her up the 2 short steps. I lean back slightly to be sure Saul can't see me when he turns and dumps her behind the pulpit. I can't see her from this angle, but I can hear her. Saul turns back toward the pews, that sick, blissful smile on his face. How can he stand to take such deep breaths when the smell is nearly overpowering, even behind a mask? He looks around at his creation for a moment and then crosses over to Martha, kneeling down beside her. I can't see either of them now, but Saul is shushing her softly, like you would a crying toddler. My heart races and I wait for my cue, the moment when Martha kicks him backward and takes off. But that never happens. Kiernan jumps up about 30 seconds ahead of schedule, hops over the railing and whacks Saul on the back of the head with a wrench. He reaches down and tugs Saul off Martha, then scoops her up into his arms like a baby and takes off down the center aisle. I hear a low moan from Saul's direction as I'm about to start off after them, and I see that he's now up on his knees. I pull back my foot and give my grandfather a solid kick to the kidneys. He lets out a very satisfying oof and slumps back to the floor as I run for the front entrance. Kiernan is just ahead, still carrying Martha. The fact that Martha is fighting him clearly isn't helping his progress, so I catch up with him quickly. "Why didn't you wait?" I say, yanking off my mask. Kiernan pulls off his mask as well, his face conflicted. "Sorry, but you weren't standing where I was, Kate. I could see. I wasn't going to let him touch her like that." Martha stops trying to get away when she hears him speak, and then she looks over at me. "You're from before. Y'all were here before." Her eyes are still wide, but there's a touch of reason beginning to come back into them. "Yes," I say. "Martha, we need to get you out of here before Saul comes to. Can you walk on your own, maybe even run a little?" She nods and Kiernan slides her to the ground. "Maybe we should all leave?" Kiernan shakes his head. "No, we need the sample, and I don't want to come back." He pats his pocket. "I've got my pistol. I'll keep an eye on the church. If I see him, I'll jump straight to the rendezvous point. You just get Martha there." He tips the mask back down, then hands me the pipe wrench and hurries around the back of the church toward the well. I grab Martha's arm. "Come on, sweetie, we have to hurry." "Where's he going?" "He needs to get a sample of the poison. We need to find out what Saul used." Her lower lip begins to quiver, so I tug her arm again. "Let's just go, okay? He'll be right behind us." "What about the other fella?" My heart stops in mid-jog and the wrench falls to the ground. What other fellow? The one he's traveling with. Said his name was Grant. Oh my God. Get across the bridge, Martha. Wait in the woods on the other side, okay? Hurry. I take off at top speed for the village, but I've barely started when the front door of the church opens. I dive into the tall grass on the side of the road and peer through the weeds as Saul staggers out. He looks to the right first, and I guess he sees Kiernan because he doesn't even bother to look my way. He shambles off toward the wall, and as soon as he rounds the corner of the church, I pull my gun out and fire a warning shot into the air, just in case Kiernan doesn't see him coming. Then I run, scanning the village ahead for any movement. About the time I veer over to cut through the field, there's a gunshot. It doesn't sound like the Colts we've been firing, so it must be Saul, or maybe this Grant. I pull to a halt at the corner of the chapel, peeking around the edge before I approach. At first, I don't see any sign of Kiernan. Then I notice the blue glow of his Chronos key behind the well, and so does Saul. He hurries toward the well, his gun raised, as I dart around the corner of the church. I point my gun at Saul's back, hoping Kiernan will disappear before I have to shoot. Saul swings out to the left a few steps. The glow is still there, which means Kiernan is still there, and I have maybe a second left before Saul reaches him. I lift the gun, aim, and fire, and I'll leave it there.
Ooh, what a wonderful place to leave it. It's like, okay, how does it end? How does it end? Last week, YA sci-fi author Laura Liddell Nolan posed a trivia question.
So the question was, in the series Harry Potter, what species of dragon is Norbert? And the answer is Norberta is a Norwegian ridgeback. And it's a girl.
Rysa, you have a trivia question for our listeners. What is it?
One of my favorite fantasy series is Stephen King's The Dark Tower. My question is, there's a character by the name of Oy. What is Oy?
Great question. Well, you know what? Rysa will reveal the answer to this trivia conundrum next episode. So be sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the answer if you don't know. So Rysa, any final words you'd like to leave with our listeners?
I really enjoyed being here today. Thanks for having me. I hope that everyone will keep an eye on my website, Rysa.com. We've got a number of different things coming out in the Chronos universe over the next couple of months. I have a Kindle novella coming out from the point of view of Bruce. And there are also several Kindle Worlds short stories and novellas that are coming out in the next couple of months. It's fan fiction at Amazon. And so writers and also readers who just like to write as a hobby can post stories that are within the Chronos universe. And I've got a whole series of guidelines set out. And then in October, Times Divide, the final book in the trilogy, will be coming out.
That's awesome. So lots and lots of ways, it sounds like, to interact with you and to get involved in the Chronos series. So that's awesome. So I hope you've enjoyed getting to know Rysa Walker a little bit. I'm LRW Lee, author of the Andy Smithson Epic Fantasy Adventure Series. The ebook of Book One, Blast of the Dragon's Fury, is available free on Amazon for download, so please be sure to do that. Our guest author next episode will be YA fantasy author Morgan Wiley. She's the author of the Age of Elandria series, which is described thusly. An ancient evil has been unleashed. The orchids have been silenced. Deegan, elite of a warrior tribe of fairies, is charged with a mission to find a mysterious new power that could change the fate of all in the realm of Elandria. But he's conflicted. Look forward to hearing more about this tale next Monday. Be sure to subscribe to the Book Nerd Paradise YouTube channel so you don't miss her. Thank you so much for watching.